Howdy, folks. This is Dr. Matt Grieshop, Director of the Grimm Family Center for Organic Production and Research at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and you're joining us for Organic Chat. So it's really great to have you, Dr. Tubeileh. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do here with the Cal Poly Organic Program?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's really great being here. So I got here back in 2015, and I was hired to start an organic program. So we did have the organic farm before that, but there was no organic research, for example. And there was one organic GE organic class happening, and there was an enterprise class, but there was no one really focused on teaching organics. So other people would be teaching those classes, part-time people or even people from other disciplines. So I was the one who was hired to start kind of those classes and to start doing research, organic research on the farm.
So Cal Poly faculty teach a lot. What are the courses that you teach?
I think I taught maybe, I would say around 10 different classes.
Wow.
Yeah, some of them were just, like a one-off. Seed production, for example, I taught that just one time, and then I taught another. Well, actually, I just taught the lab for seed production. Oh no, sorry, I taught seed production full class, and then I taught the lab for forage production just one time, and then I taught the lab for experimental design just one time. These are kind of the ones that are not really kind of my main kind of expertise. But my major focus has always been organic classes. So right now I have 3 organic management classes. Enterprise class, Plant Science 203, which is the most basic, kind of, it's all hands-on. We just kind of discuss the big picture kind of organic production, some of the main concepts, but nothing really in detail.
But and the students are out working in the field, helping plant.
Exactly.
Weed.
The students are doing everything.
Weed some more.
Yes.
Harvest eventually.
You got it. So a lot of weeding and a lot. Actually, I was talking to a student today about weeding, and she was telling me weeding is therapeutic to me.
Yeah, I find it very therapeutic.
I fully agree with that, because I was telling her as well, when I have a bad day, or really a full kind of kind of day, and my brain cannot function anymore for whatever reason, and that happens maybe once a week, and then I just go out to the farm and start pulling out weeds.
Yep.
So less so now, but when I was in charge of the farm, I would do that really very often, and so it's really nice to be out there just with plants, and
and it's meditative and productive. I mean, 12 hours a day, 5 days, 7 days a week is hard, but once in a while I love it too.
Yes.
You see what you're doing, and you get to interact with the plants, get your hands in the soil. I joke often that if you've done any organic farming for a while, you're probably going to end up with a favorite brand of hoe. So I definitely I don't get money from them, but Rogue Hose, and particularly their scuffle triangle shaped hose are my personal favorite. But yeah, it's kind of a weird class. So how about some of the other classes? I know you teach at least 2 more organic classes.
Yeah, so I teach Plant Science 315, which is a GE class, and it's a very popular class. I get all sorts of majors taking that class, like people from engineering, history, kinesiology, food science and nutrition, all over the place. So, and then I have 420, Plant Science 420, which is a more advanced class. This is kind of more tailored towards the majors who have some ag background, a strong ag background, because this is where we discuss the details of organic production, the pros and cons, ins and outs of the everyday challenges that an organic grower would be facing, how to deal with weeds, from more kind of not just from hand pulling kind of aspect, but from a more kind of more technological kind of like tools and other options besides just manual weeding. And then we talk about pest management, insect management, soil-borne disease management. We also talk about the soil itself and the soil biology, how the soil biology changes with organic farming, and the two components of that being the pesticides and the fertilizer applications, and how both can have different effects on the soil and the soil microbiome, what's going on in the soil. And then on top of the organic classes, I also teach crop physiology. That's another kind of regular class that I teach every quarter. Senior project, most of the quarters, that's a class I teach.
Yeah. Do you have one of those classes that you enjoy the most?
I would say,
I'm asking you to pick a child.
Yeah,
that's always hard.
yeah, I know it's hard. But,
and it changes, right?
I think I would say probably 315 GE class, because this is the class where you get to see from the hippie all the way to the 10th generation farmer, and those people will have a very different, mindset, very different perspective of what organic is, and very different approach to organic management and so forth. So 315 is probably where, and actually one of the reasons we developed 420 was to make kind of the student population 315 less heterogeneous, because having some students with a strong background in agriculture together with someone who think or who have no idea, they think you can just grow baby carrots, for example. It's really hard. They just pop up out of the ground, etc. So it's really hard, to put all these folks in one pot and teach them at the same level. So, so 315, I would say is probably my favorite.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. And and it's great that you're teaching a class where you can be a real agricultural ambassador. That's getting folks who don't have any kind of an agricultural background into agriculture. For me, that's a lot about what these podcasts are about, is we want to have people think about ag, just so they know something about where their food comes from. So that's really cool. I'm really, it sounds like a really good class.
Thank you.
So how about, you mentioned the research that you brought here as well. I think I've looked at or read one of your papers that was on spent olive mulch. Did you have a recent study on that?
Olive pomace.
Yeah, olive pomace. I'm sorry. So used as a mulch or as a fertilizer?
We used it. We tried it in different ways. One of the one that you read about in the paper was mixed in with the soil.
Yes.
So as compost, basically. And then there was another one where kind of we used the raw. So there was like raw versus composted olive pomace, and then we tried also different other composts, because people say compost and they it's like saying fish, but there's bread, there's so many different types of bread, and so many different ways to eat it, and so many different things that you can eat it with, and so forth. And compost is the same thing. So compost just depends on where it came from, like the recipe, the ingredients that went into that compost, the feedstocks, and then how it was prepared and for how long, and so forth. So, and how it is applied, and the amount of it that is applied to the soil. So it's not really a one size fits all. Right. So we tried that with some undergrad and graduate students. We looked at weed management. We looked at soil-borne diseases, mostly Verticillium dahliae, which is a big pathogen that affects fungus, that affects I think over 400 different species of plants.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very like important disease in the state here, but also worldwide.
And sorry, just for the audience, so the olive pomace is what's left over after you take olives grown for oil and you press the oil out of it. So it's kind of like the leftovers after you're done with that process.
Yes, so it is basically the flesh, the pit, and sometimes even maybe some leaves kind of remaining in the. And another name for it is olive cake. Some people would call it olive cake.
Olive cake.
But it's not something that you can eat. It's not like
I have eaten a raw olive once. I got to do a little bit of olive harvesting last year at a farm.
It's very bitter.
And it was they said you can eat as many as you want.
And it would be just
didn't
one.
Get through one. Didn't get through one. Got one tooth through it and was like, yeah, okay. I'm gonna let that sit and brine for a while before I try that again.
Yeah.
So with that, using the olive pomace or olive cake as a compost feedstock. So I'm really curious. Did you see nitrogen tie up with the composted versus the uncomposted when you evaluated that, or did you see changes in terms of how it interacted with verticillium or the weeds?
Well, this is a great question. So. I don't think we looked at the nitrogen mineralization or tie-up immobilization in this case, although we analyzed for total nitrogen and for mineral nitrogen, but we didn't really try to associate. That was not really a factor that we looked at.
I guess thinking about it, they're probably pretty high in nitrogen.
But you are it is low. Actually, compost.
Really?
So all the composts that we tried, they were all below like maybe one was 1.7% total nitrogen.
Wow.
Not mineral nitrogen,
wow.
Which is really low.
Yeah.
So, and certain composts again depending on where you get them,
Yeah.
because these we mix them with dairy cow manure.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the manure was the main source for the nitrogen.
Yeah.
But in general, there were, I think, two of them were maybe 1.4%. I don't have the paper in front of me,
no,
so
I put you on the spot.
Yeah. So but the numbers are right there. And for these composts, sometimes you can get as low as 0.5% total nitrogen in the compost, which is not. And I always tell this to my students. I show them the analysis, and what do you think of this as a fertilizer?
Right.
It is not really a nitrogen fertilizer.
And it's not available.
And it is not available. It's total, it's
amino acids and big molecules.
And big molecules, proteins, and so composts, like our main focus with some of those studies was to see its effect more on weeds and also on verticillium dahlia in the soil, plus other things. We also looked at arthropods, columbula, and symphyllans. We looked at both, but these were and you're an entomologist, so you probably know better in terms of it's really hard, with those the variability was just so high that
especially
we couldn't
symphyllans.
Symphyllans.
They're like the phantom menace of coal crops in the Central Coast.
Exactly.
I mean, they sort of come and go, and
and we do have them out here on the farm, so that's another thing.
Oh, so we get to experience them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we tested for those, and we couldn't really make any conclusions on the symphyllans, arthropods in general, symphyllans, columbula. But with verticillium, that was the main thing that really kind of jumps out of that study.
So it suppressed it?
Yeah, it suppresses
awesome.
verticillium. I would say, and they're suppressed. Remember what we said about composts being really different from depending on the source and the preparation and so forth. They were very different in terms of how they suppressed verticillium. Like the dairy manure compost, which is mostly kind of dairy manure, but with horse manure as well, and it's kind of a mixture and maybe some wood chips and so forth. But it was not really very effective at reducing the verticillium dahlia in the soil. But others were especially the grape pomace, everything from plants. Basically, we had 3 composts from plant residues. The olive pomace was one, grape pomace was another one. Grape pomace / grape mark is another name for it. which is basically again what you get after you press the grapes for wine.
Right, or juice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. So you get the skins and the seeds, and maybe some stems.
Mm-hmm.
So and then the last one was compost that we sourced. It's like an industrial, commercial compost from Engel and Gray in Santa Maria, which is mostly plant-based.
Okay.
It's like crop residues, whatever they have in that area.
Green waste.
But those are green waste, yard clippings, like grass clippings, yard waste, but also from farms.
Oh, cool.
So like they would have maybe sometimes strawberry crowns. They might
Really?
have some grape mark in it.
Okay.
They might have some maybe like romaine residue, whatever they have available to them. So it's kind of a mix of different things, and that was the one that was the most effective, I would say. Well, like maybe close enough with the other plant sources, but these three were very different.
Heterogeneous, like the most varied feedstocks.
Yeah, that's one thing, and the other thing what we were thinking as a reason for this was I think the polyphenols.
Oh yeah.
So all
sense.
three,
Yeah,
and all three come with polyphenols that come from plants that you don't find in the manure compost.
Right.
And I think that's where kind of the phytotoxicity, but also antimicrobial effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying phytotoxicity because we tried that also on plants, and we did get also like some nice weed suppression as well with those some of those composts.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'd be remiss. I mean, as I've said on this podcast a few times, I'm still kind of a new kid here. I've been here about 2 years, and of course, you joined back in 2015. So I'd be really remiss if I didn't ask you. What have you seen as you've been here? Over almost a decade.
Yeah, you make me feel old.
I'm sorry. Well, we're probably.
It's okay. It's okay.
I don't know.
No, I'm just teasing you.
But what have you? What are some of the things you've noticed and seen, and maybe as importantly, I mean, what are some of the things you're hoping to see as we move into the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, on the farm.
Yeah, in organics at Cal Poly. So the farm, your program, everything else.
Organics and Cal Poly. So in terms of organics, I think this is one comment that I hear from students. We've always been kind of lagging behind in terms of technology on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Like getting some, like cutting edge technology in terms of maybe weed management, especially.
Yeah.
That could help a little bit. When I was in charge of the farm, I looked into one of those kind of, like cool, like kind of toy.
Like stout weeder, the robotic
weeders, like autonomous robotic weeders. There was a Bosch out of Germany, and I contacted them, and they came back with a quote of 250,000 euros.
Oh, okay.
So
and at the time, that probably would have been.
This is like from 6-7 years ago.
So it's probably like the cool 300 grand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No problem.
But I think
we'll take
prices.
3.
Yeah, I was trying to sell it to them as a demo piece.
Right.
We're in the middle of kind of this farmland in California, and California is we have the salad bowl just north from us, and like all those kids would get to see it, so they like it, so they'll buy it from you guys. Yeah. So, but I guess that didn't fly with them. So. They still needed, like maybe a good chunk of the money, of the price.
Yeah.
So I would think that's one big challenge for organic growers.
Oh, absolutely.
All the time.
Yeah,
weed management. So if we can get something that works for them, and something that we can demonstrate to our students here on the farm.
And that's something we should explore, because since a lot of those automated, I would say traditional weeders, traditional meaning they're using some kind of a shovel-based implement or a finger-based implement with robot eyes to tell it what to kill and not to kill. But Stout, which is they're a spin-off of Tanamura and Antol, which is a major salad producer in Salinas. I know they're becoming really popular, and And then of course there's the carbon robotics laser weeder, which is like Star Wars, but those are like $500,000, and you need a really big tractor.
True.
But then there's also things like the M3, or there's a robotics company out of Watsonville that's making, they're basically sourced out of electric bike parts, and so they don't have the weeding part of it, but they've got the autonomous platform and some of the machine learning capabilities and things. But it's really interesting to hear you talk about that. That might be something we should talk to them about. Because I don't think we're going to be able to come up with the funding for a $300,000 or $500,000 machine. But
you were asking me about my Christmas wish list.
Yeah, it's just, the next 200 Christmases maybe. But now that we've got more local players, it was interesting. I mean, those first machines really were. I mean, from what I saw, they were coming from Germany, the Netherlands, maybe Belgium,
Denmark.
Denmark too. That's right. Mm-hmm. But now we've got a bunch of local folks producing them, and it might be they'd be a little more amenable to, hey, we should get your we can get our folks trained on your machine.
Yeah. And prices have really come down quite a bit since that time.
Well, not for the carbon. But
and then we have also zappers, weed zappers.
Oh, the electric lightning weeder.
Just exactly.
Yeah.
And you just.
That's the Lasco lightning weeder was I think came out in like '78. And those were getting pretty big. Before I left Michigan, there were a bunch of people looking at those again, but they seem to have petered out again. I don't know if it's I always thought that would be a good one for bolting carrots and volunteer carrots and some of the carrot production systems, because oftentimes you've got this massive height differential. But when I've talked to larger operators about that, they've said, okay, so you want to put this giant transformer and generator on a tractor with this open circuit on the front, and I don't know if I want to electrocute anyone. But they're really cool. There's great videos on those on YouTube. You can see these weeds just smoking. But that's another
in organic agriculture, there are always those kind of cool niche areas that you can. Most of them, I'd say, kind of are related to the soil, because this is probably where most of the difference between conventional and organic happens. So there's always a lot of things kind of to look into in the soil in terms of organic, and how to make organic more efficient. And some of my previous research was focusing on nitrogen mineralization and looking at effects from different fertilizers on, say, like romaine lettuce yield, etc. I think that's always a cool area kind of also to study, because nitrogen is the other, besides pests, that's the other big bottleneck in organic systems. So, and especially with some of these short-lived crops.
Oh, like spinach?
Like spinach, for example.
I hear about that one a lot.
And with nitrogen, with Ag Order 4.0, I think it's about time kind of to improve the nitrogen use efficiency for some of those crops. Leafy greens in general, spinach, maybe romaine in particular, less so broccoli, but some of those like very short life cycle kind of crops that require a lot of nitrogen. So there's always work to be done there, and maybe looking at how the nitrogen interacts with the soil microbiome, how the soil microbiome kind of influence nitrogen, maybe make the crop more efficient to get nitrogen from the soil, or maybe even looking at new fertilizer formulations. Those kinds of things. I think that there's always kind of need for that kind of research. And of course, I'm not going to encroach onto your onto your area, because the insects are always kind of insect pests.
There's way too much to learn. It's all, and everything affects everything else. So
exactly,
we get a lot more done working together. So one thing. Last thing before we go, I think, is for students that are interested in your general ed organic class, could you just one more time, like what the class course call number and name is, and what quarters do you teach it?
Yes, so this is called Plant Science PLSC or AG 315. It's cross-listed as AG AG 315 or Plant Science 315, and it is offered fall and spring quarters.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Every year, fall and spring.
So we got 2 chances every year to take.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today. It's really great to hear about a lot of the things you've been doing and to get a little context on what's been happening at the farm. And I think we'll have to talk more about automated weeders and nitrogen fertility.
I look forward to that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you for having me.
Oh, you bet.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Organic Chat. This podcast is recorded on the Cal Poly campus. Production provided by our production engineer, Mary Nascimento.